Behind every strange tale is a life no one truly told. We don't tell ghost stories to scare you. We tell them so you'll hear what few dare to hear. Follow the channel. The hidden truth is just beginning. Episode 1, Tent Number 3 has nitrogen more out. There are children who never grew up because they were left behind, right in the middle of a childhood that never had the chance to end. My name is Eli. I am 12 years old, and I've lived in Tent Number 3 for 38 years. More precisely, I'm not living anymore, but I didn't die the way people think either. I'm not buried underground, not turned into dust. I was just kept by a place, a moment, a tent. Tent Number 3 at Oak Pines Summer Camp. People call it the abandoned camp, a place adults fear to mention. Children are forbidden to approach, and every map pretends it never existed. But I remember everything in it clearly. The creaky floorboard under where I lay, the rain-stained tent wall shaped like a skull, and the last group photo still hanging crooked under the camp lantern, where all 7 kids smiled, except me, because the day that picture was taken, I knew I would never leave this place again. That year was 1987. My mom sent me to Oak Pines because you need to play with kids your age instead of locking yourself in a room reading comics all day. That camp was deep in the Oregon forest, near a round lake shaped like an eye. There were 5 tents in total, each for 6 to 8 kids. Didn't fit in. They talked all night about dares, about cliff jumping into the lake, even about sneaking into the girls' restroom at midnight to test our bravery. I just stayed quiet, turned my face to the tent wall, and I heard breathing behind my neck, not from the other campers. It was soft breathing, but it brushed right against the nape of my neck, steady and calm, like someone was lying right behind me, silently waiting for me to turn around. I didn't turn. I kept my eyes shut all night. The next morning, I asked my tent mate, Mason, if he noticed anything strange last night. He just laughed. It's Tent Number 3. You'll get used to it. 4 days later, a boy named Tyler panicked during lunch. He screamed that someone had unzipped his back, that during the night a hand had reached into his belly through the slit in his pajamas. We thought Tyler was imagining things, but the next morning, Tyler was gone. His sleeping bag was empty. All his stuff was still there, but no one in the camp, not even the staff, mentioned him. Not a word, not a note. I asked, "What about Tyler?" The counselor smiled at me very gently. "Eli, our camp only has 7 kids. You must be mistaken." But I remembered clearly. There were 8 of us. I slept right next to Tyler. His peppermint shampoo still lingered on the pillow. And even stranger, Tyler's sleeping bag was neatly folded, flat on the ground, as if no one had ever slept in it. By the second week, everything in the camp felt off. The breakfast bell rang at 3 a.m. The dining hall light glared even without power. One morning, while we were eating, every spoon and fork suddenly stood upright in the bowls like pulled by invisible hands. Each day, fewer people remembered what happened the day before. I asked Mason, "Do you remember what game we played yesterday?" He stared at me. Yesterday was yesterday. Then fell silent, a kind of silence that chills your spine, as if someone had just ripped out a piece of Mason's memory with bare hands. That was the day I started hearing voices. Inside my own head, it wasn't until 2025 that someone set foot in that camp again. They were a group of film students, Sam, Lily, and a frizzy-haired cameraman named Greg. They brought drones, thermal cameras, and EMF detectors. I watched from the shadows of the tent. 38 years had passed. I was still 12. I hadn't aged. I still couldn't leave the tent. When Sam stepped into tent number 3, the rotting old shelter they called the center of a disappearance, I instantly heard his thoughts. This is it. This is where it all began. But I also heard another voice, a scream, far away, deep, from beneath the earth. Don't let him stay. Tent number 3 doesn't take more. For 3 days straight, Sam didn't leave the tent. Lily and Greg thought he was sleeping in the car, but I knew he had been taken by the tent. I saw him drawing with white chalk on the ground. The same lines I once drew, a map of the camp. The names of the children, and I drawn in dried blood. Sam whispered, "Something's not right. I feel like I've been here before." I knew he was being pulled in, but I couldn't do anything. My hands couldn't touch anything. Every time I tried to scream, my voice came out like wind, but I still tried. I scratched at the tent wall. With my nails wrote, "Leave before sunset." Sam saw the words and smiled. A smile that was not his. That sunset, the sky wasn't red. It was black, like scorched by ink. Lily and Greg went looking for Sam. They stood in front of tent number 3, called his name for 10 minutes. No one answered. Greg pulled open the tent flap inside. Empty. No person, no belongings, nothing. But I still saw Sam. He was sitting right in the middle of the tent, staring at me as if he could see me. I whispered, "You're not you anymore." And Sam nodded. A week later, the news reported that the student group had an accident in the forest. One missing Sam. Conclusion: lost body not found. I sat next to Sam, or what remained of him, in tent number 3. He no longer spoke, just sat there, drawing the same circle over and over on the ground. Outside, the sky was still sunset, 38 years without morning, and I knew someone new would come tomorrow. Tent number 3 would open again. A summer camp where children once went missing is scary. But a camp where children never left is haunting. Never enter a place where children's laughter doesn't grow older with the years, because maybe it's no longer laughter. Episode 2, the nightly roll call. Not every child is woken up by a bugle. Some are awakened by the roll call once used to count the dead. I am Maya. I no longer remember how old I am. All I know is the last time sunlight touched my face, I was still standing tall in the flag yard, and now I remain here under this old tree, hearing every night the roll call echoing through the woods, even though the camp is empty. Except for those like me, no one has called my name since 1987. But every night I must stand straight, listen carefully, because if I don't answer, I will be pulled away from this place, and not to where the living are. Every night at exactly 3:17 a.m. the roll call begins. Not earlier, not later. A low, hoarse voice calls from somewhere at the edge of the woods, slowly naming each child. Ashton Lee, present. Maya Rose, present. Leo Dunham, present. Not everyone replies, and each night one name will be repeated 3 times. Leo Dunham. Leo Dunham. Leo Dunham. Then, he never shows up at the next roll call. After the disappearance that year, Oak Pines Camp was sealed off, but for kids like us, it still operates. Every morning, we do exercises in the flag yard. Every noon, we eat meals that are never hot, nor cold. Every evening, we read books, tell stories, laugh as if we are still alive. There is only one rule. We must not speak of the night, must not mention the voice, must not ask, why does a name disappear every single night? Those who disobey will also have their name called 3 times. I have witnessed countless nights of roll call, but in the summer of 2025, for the first time, the voice stopped. Halfway, the one who made it stop was a girl named Belle, an anthropology student from the University of Portland. She got lost during a hike, carrying a nearly dead phone and a small backpack. She couldn't see us, but we saw her very clearly. On her first night, when the voice echoed, Isabel froze in the yard. She heard it. None of us had ever heard the name of a living person in the roll call. But on the second night, Isabel stayed. She pitched her tent right in a flag yard. The voice called out, "Isabel Rowe." I heard it clearly. All the other children did too. The whole camp went silent. Not the kind of silence born from fear, but from not knowing what happens when the living gets called. On the third night, the voice repeated, "Isabel Rowe." Isabel Rowe. She jolted upright, her face pale. I saw her stumble in the tent, open her phone, check GPS, call for rescue. No one answered, and I knew if her name was called a third time, she would no longer be among the living. I decided to break the rule. I showed myself, not clearly, just enough to draw a message in the dew on her plastic tent cover. Leave the flag yard before 3 a.m. Isabel saw it. She gasped. Her hands trembled as she wrote it down in her notebook, thinking it was a sign from a friendly spirit. She decided to stay one more night, set up a camera outside her tent, brought a voice recorder, and set her alarm. 3 a.m. That night was not like the others. No crickets, no wind. All the children stood in line, still as statues. And then, Isabel Rowe. Isabel Rowe. Isabel Rowe. Isabel Rowe. The third time, right at that moment, the camera lights sparked and burst. The flashlight went dark. Her phone hit the ground and shattered. A freezing gust passed through her body. I saw blood drip from her ears, though her eyes were still open. Isabel did not faint, but I knew she was no longer fully human. She began to see all of us. She looked at me. I said out loud, "Maya." I froze. No one had called my name since 1987. Isabel sat trembling in the yard, asking me with her eyes, "How do I stop this?" I couldn't answer aloud, but I pointed to the ground, where an old carving said, "Call any name 3 times, and they can never leave." Isabel understood. She had to call her name a 4th time to break the loop. 3:17 a.m. As the voice was about to call again, she stood up, screamed, "Isabel Rowe." The camp shook. I heard something ancient crack, like a curse breaking. The sky brightened. Isabel was found a week later in the forest, hands scratched, vision blurred. Patches of her hair turned gray. They diagnosed her with extreme disorientation and post-trauma hallucinations. No one believed the story she told, but in her backpack was an old folded note with a shaky line. Maya Rose. Present. Since that night, I have not been called. My name no longer appears. No more roll call. No more voice. Only the whisper of my own breath each night, repeating inside my head. Present, 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 present. In places once used by the military, they used roll call to count the living at Oak Pines Camp. We used roll call to count those who no longer exist. Sometimes, what keeps a soul from passing on is not hatred. Episode 3. The Game Master died long ago. My name is Harper Quinn. If you've ever heard of Redwood Pines Summer Camp, please don't just see it as another moss-covered tourist trap sold to urban explorer YouTubers. It wasn't just the site of the mass disappearance in 1999. It's the place where old games are still being played, even though no one is left to run them. And the last person who taught us how to play has been dead for a long time. I know this because I was one of the last kids to attend that camp. I went missing the summer I turned 12. 17 years later, they found me in a locked room beneath the North Dorm basement, a place that should have been sealed off. I hadn't aged. I looked exactly the same as the photo my mom had posted all over the neighborhood when I disappeared. But I had been alive. At least, something like me still existed. And I'm going to tell you the one thing I remember most. Not the blackout night. Not the speaker screaming in the woods. Part of this place's flesh and blood. It started on the third morning of the first week. The camp was still full then. There were over 30 of us, split into color groups: blue, red, yellow, and purple. Each group had its own cabin, but the morning games all gathered on the center lawn. A giant circle. Red dot painted on the patchy grass. That was the day the Game Master appeared. No one knew where he came from. He wasn't like the counselors in uniform with clipboards. He wore a worn-out outfit, a backwards cap, and around his neck, a frayed leather string holding a silver whistle, almost rotting. "Call me Coach Derry," he said. His voice was raspy, like a long-time smoker, but he never coughed. "Hey, we're playing the memory game." No one objected. Kids don't question adults giving orders. The first game he taught us was called Who's Looking? Simple rules. One kid gets blindfolded. The others form a circle around them. When the whistle blows, the blindfolded kid spins around and points in any direction. If anyone is looking at them at that moment, they're out. Sounds impossible. But Coach Derry said, you don't need sight. The feeling of being watched is strong enough to guess right. The first game, I was the blindfolded one. First whistle blow, I spun once and pointed randomly. Luca's out. Coach Derry, yelled Dot. I took off the blindfold and saw Luca, green cap, pale face, standing right where I had pointed. He stared at me like I had just sentenced him to death. The game went on. And strangely, every kid that got out had been looking straight. at me. I didn't know how. But that strange sensation, like when I closed my eyes, every gaze became a sharp knife. It was real. The second game of the day was called Don't Lie. Each of us picked a slip of paper. One had liar written on it. The rest were blank. We had to sit in a circle and figure out who the liar was without speaking. Each round, Coach Derry would step behind one kid. If the guess was wrong, or no one guessed at all, that kid was removed from the game. I remember the first round. Elliot from Team Purple guessed wrong. Coach Derry just placed a hand on his shoulder, but by lunch, Elliot was gone. His backpack was still on his bunk, but he was missing. We were told his family picked him up, but no outside calls ever reached the camp. I know, because the next day I stole a counselor's phone. Every call blocked. No signal. No bars. It was like we were in a place that didn't exist on any map. On day 4, Coach Derry taught us, don't turn your back. One kid stood in the center of the lawn. The rest had to run in a circle around them, but never turn their back to the center. If you were caught turning, you had to lie down. You weren't allowed to get up again. We played until no one dared move. All started hearing something behind us whenever we turned away. When the game ended, 5 kids didn't stand back up. Not because they were scared, but because something crushed them. One kid's eyes rolled back. Another, blood trickled from her mouth. They were taken away in an ambulance. But everyone knew no ambulance ever got through to this place. We were afraid of Coach Derry, but no one spoke it out loud. Each morning, he stood in the center, whistle in hand, calling names. Harper Quinn, you're the next player. I was always the last one left each round. Maybe because I never broke the rules. I always played the way he taught. I never resisted. I began to understand these weren't just games. They were rituals. One night, I followed Coach Derry. I saw him go into the wooden shack behind the cafeteria, the one abandoned after termites ate through the roof. No lights, no sound. I pressed my ear against the wood. I heard laughter, not his voice, but the laughter of many kids, giggling, like playing hide and seek in the dark. I froze. The next morning, Coach Derry said, "Final game. Winner gets to go home." The name of the game. Who's the last one? Rules. Everyone runs in a circle around the field. No stopping. No looking back. No touching anyone. The last person remaining wins. We ran and ran. No one dared to stop. One kid slipped. Another collapsed from exhaustion. Another cried begged to quit, Coach Derry stood there, whistle on his chest, eyes locked on us until only I was left. I didn't stop, but I heard no more footsteps, no wind, no bugs, nothing, nothing, just me and my breathing echoing through the circle. I turned back. Coach Derry was gone. After that, a blank. I woke up in a sealed room underground. In front of me, a whiteboard. List of all the games. Next to it, a faded black and white photo. Coach Derry in the picture. He looked younger. Old camp uniform, surrounded by skinny kids with empty eyes. On the board, scrawled in chalk, "The game isn't over. Those who learn the rules will live." I am Harper Quinn, and I tell you this so you remember. Not all games are harmless, especially when the one who taught you to play has been dead for a long time. Episode 4. The Birthday Gift. Nitrogen monoxide, one claimed. I didn't have a birthday cake. No candles. No one at all. But every year, on that exact day, someone still left me a gift on the old wooden table in front of cabin 8. And this year, I opened it. I don't remember my name. I no longer know how long I've been here. All I know is, on some summer day, when the air was thick with pine and damp earth, I woke up. This summer camp used to be loud, crowded. At least, that's what the scattered shards of memory tell me. Children screaming, whistles blowing for mealtime, feet pounding over gravel. But now, it's different. I hear nothing but the wind. I stay here in this rotting camp where the thatched roof caves in piece by piece, and moss creeps up wooden walls like claw marks left behind. No one calls for me. No one plays with me. No one sees me. I see no one. Only one strange thing keeps me aware of my own existence every year on that same day. I don't even know which day it is. A small gift appears on the wooden table in front of cabin 8. A box wrapped in ash gray paper. No bow, no card. Only I can see it. Year 1, a metal whistle. I don't know why I went to cabin 8 that day. I usually wandered near the broken carousel or the half-frozen lake. But that day, my feet were pulled, step by unconscious step, toward the rotting table. The box lay there, covered in a soft coat of dust. My trembling hands reached out, even though I no longer feel skin. I still remember how to open a gift. Inside was a metal whistle, the kind coaches use to gather the kids. I held it, pressed it to my lips, even though I don't know if I still breathe, and blew no sound. But everything around me suddenly froze. The wind stopped. The trees fell silent. Even the summer. Cicadas, usually screaming all day long, went mute. I stood in the stillness, a space locked by my own whistle. And I saw the first thing, a small shadow crawling beneath the table. It had no face, just a hazy form, shaking. Then it vanished. To a stuffed bear without eyes. The gift was in the same spot. This time, inside was a torn, worn-out stuffed bear. Its fabric yellowed, as if soaked too long in dirty water. But the strangest thing was it had no eyes. I held the bear, and a voice whispered right next to my ear. We hid under the beds. You didn't see us, but he did. He always saw us. I turned my head. No one. Only a trail of tiny footprints, muddy and small, leading from the table to cabin 8 and vanishing at the doorstep. 3. A cassette tape. This year's gift was heavier. Inside was a deep red cassette tape. No label, no name. I don't know how, but the moment I touched it, I heard children's voices, looping, trapped in a nightmarish cycle. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. Top to someone. Then a different child sobbed. I don't want to go in there anymore. Please don't lock us in. Cabin 8 is locked now. Everyone's locked in. I started to remember. I remembered standing in front of cabin 8. The wooden door shut tight. Inside, the pounding fists, the screams of many children. No one came to open ITI, or someone like me just stood there, did nothing, said nothing. I saw my shadow in that memory, small, weak, but standing outside, silent, and then the cabin caught fire. The flames spread fast, as if someone had already poured gasoline. The screams were sliced apart by smoke, by fire. The smell of burning flesh, burning hair, burning plastic. I don't know if I died in there, or if I was the one they dragged out. This year, the final gift. Didn't plan to open it. I didn't want to know more. But the box still sat there, same spot, and this time, it had words written on it, for the first time, in deep red ink, for the child who didn't save the others. I opened it. Inside was a photo, old, yellowed, one corner burned. 8 children stood in front of cabin 8, wearing camp shirts. One of them, was me, or who I used to be. I stood at the edge of the group, head lowered, gripping something tight in my hand. I looked closer. It was a gasoline bottle. Beneath the photo was a crumpled scrap of paper, scrawled in clumsy child handwriting. Thanks for leaving us behind. The table vanished, came back the next morning. The wooden table was gone. The gift box gone. Nothing. As if no one had ever left anything for me. As if everything was a dream, torn apart in the darkness of summer. I wandered the camp, calling names I didn't know where I'd heard before. No one answered, only the laughter of children, ECHOED. From inside cabin, they had burned, blackened, reduced to a frame of scorched beams. I saw the old gifts, the whistle, the bear, the tape. All laid out in a row, like for a birthday party. No one came, but the birthday cake still had candles. I received the gift, and now it's my turn to give one back. If you step into this camp on the exact day when the sky is gray, but there's no rain, no birds, no wind, ... If you see an old wooden table with a roughly wrapped box, ... Don single quotes to open it. Some gifts are for birthdays. Some gifts are to summon back the children left behind. And this year, I'm the one giving. The bugle call that wakes the children who never grew up. Told by a child who never got to blow the morning bugle. My name is Julian. I was 12 that year, and I died. I died on a summer morning, right before the bugle sounded the flag ceremony, just like it did every day at Hillgrove Camp. The strange thing is, no one noticed. No one at all. Not the counselors, not the camps, not the camp manager. That morning, I simply wasn't there, and they just kept going. Breakfast, exercise, swimming, arts and crafts, campfire dances. As if Julian had never existed. Only I was still there, standing quietly, staring blankly at the open yard between the cabins. A breeze rustled through. The pine trees, stretching long shadows across the damp grass. I didn't know why I died. I just knew I was still there, and every morning, before the sun peeked over the hilltop, I would hear a bugle call. But it wasn't Mr. Clark's bugle, the one that usually played reveille to wake the kids. It was a different sound. From deep in the woods, far, far away, yet somehow, ... right beside my ear. Only I could hear it. Only the dead children of Hillgrove Camp could hear it. Hillgrove had a tradition. Every morning, rain or shine, all campers lined up facing the flagpole in the center of the yard. Mr. Clark would blow his bugle. The flag would rise, and the kids would sing the national anthem. But after the night I disappeared, something went wrong. The flag wouldn't go up anymore. The rope jammed halfway, screeched like nails dragging across glass. Some kids giggled. some shivered. The camp director muttered, "Must be the wind messing with the pulley." But I knew better. I was holding the rope every morning, pulling it back down. I didn't know why I did it. Maybe, I was angry. I didn't want them saluting a flag soaked in blood. That night, 3 kids snuck out of their cabin. They thought no one saw, but I saw. I followed them. They crept out of cabin 7, crossed the old playground, and headed toward the black lake, the one that was always too still, too quiet, its water mirroring the starry sky. Like some haunted glass, they heard something. Not an owl, not bugs, a sound like a bugle, very faint, like someone practicing deep in their throat. Echoing from across the lake, no lights, no shadows, just the sound. One of them, Belai, whispered, "Hey, is that Mr. Clark?" "No, it wasn't," I whispered back, but they didn't hear me. They kept walking and walking until the sound blared right behind them. They spun around. Standing right between them, I led them away into the woods behind camp, the place no map shows, the place with no path back, the place where the children who never grew up still wait. The next morning, chaos. 3 campers missing. Everyone's searching. Police came. Dogs came. Helicopters. But all they found was a broken bugle lying at the door of cabin 7, covered in dust. Like it had been there for years. No one recognized it, but it was mine. I once begged Mr. Clark to let me play. He said I didn't have the lungs for it, said I was too weak. He handed me an old one to play with in the dorm. I held it that night, the night I disappeared. It was still warm in my hand, even though I no longer lived. I used to think I'd wander Hillgrove forever, unseen, unremembered, nameless. But then I met them, my friends, children in old camp uniforms, mud on their faces, scratches down their arms. They stood in the woods beneath a torn moon, watching me. One said, "You got forgotten too, huh?" I nodded. Another held out a tiny whistle, said, "When you hear the bugle, don't run. Follow it, come with us." So each night, I followed the sound. It led me through the trees, past empty cabins, through the abandoned mess hall, behind doors that couldn't open from the inside. And I saw. I wasn't the first to be forgotten, and I wouldn't be. The last Hillgrove camp shut down just a week after the 3 kids vanished. The news said nothing. Families said nothing. Camp pictures vanished online. Satellite maps blurred the area like it never existed. But we're still here. Every summer, when someone gets lost in the forest, When the bugle echoes in the morning mist, we wake up again. We walk the halls. We step past empty bunks. We look through the mess hall windows, hoping someone remembers. No one does. No one comes. Only the bugle remains, that call repeating endlessly. Reveille, wake up. Wake up, wake up. We never grow up. We just follow the sound and blow it for the next one.